The study series we've been in recently has been going through the letters that John wrote. The Apostle John wrote it to the churches, and we've been going through them. It's been a lot about the need to bring 100% love and 100% truth to everything. And I'm really enjoying it. I like what I'm learning from it. I hope that you've been engaged with the Spirit with it as well. But I am going to take a break from it today. We're going to come back to it. And just kind of honor the special occasion of Back to Church Sunday, I've got something else that's kind of been on my heart that I've been digging into this week. And we'll get back into the other study series next week. Now, I say that knowing that, let's say you came here because it's Back to Church Sunday, or you started watching because it's Back to Church Sunday, and let's say, and prayerfully, you're like, hey, I kind of feel a connection here, I'd like to come back next week. The last thing I want to do is make you feel like, oh, crap, if I come next week, I'm going to be out of the loop. These guys are like 2 months into this series, and now they're going to be doing it. I promise you, if you come back, and we pray you come back, we'd love for you to come back. All these, the way that we do our study series, they're all standalone, and they also work together. So if you come, you will not be lost in any way, shape, or form. Okay, Craig, you guys have been here the last 2 weeks. Have you felt lost the last 2 weeks? Good. There we go. If they said yes, that would have been a horrible moment for the entire church. Did you change your vote? Troublemaker. And if y'all really know what's about and you want to dig into it and you think the letters of John sound awesome, tsflife.com. They're all available there on video. You can catch up with us if you need to. But if you come next week, I promise I won't leave you in the door. But I do want to take and dig into something a little bit different this week, again, with Back to Church Sunday. And I want to call it a character study. The thing that's a little off about it being a character study is it's not about a person. We just did a study on Barnabas not too long ago, and Hannah, the mother of Samuel, not too long ago. But this isn't necessarily about a person as much as it is a particular location. If you want to get me going in talking about locations in the Bible, ask me sometime about Antioch. I can go forever about Antioch. I love Antioch. There is no lunch that day, that Sunday, if you get me going about Antioch. And Bethany. Bethany's the other one, and that's the one I want to dig into with you today. Now, because I love Bethany and everything that surrounds Bethany, I have taught on it before. So if you've been here for a long period of time, some of this will be recap for you. But that's okay, because I like talking about it. And it's beneficial to you. But also I want to look at it from a little bit of a different perspective for Back to Church Sunday. So let me talk a little bit on the things that we've talked about before we get into the Bible study portion of it. Bethany is a little itty-bitty town outside of Jerusalem, and it's the name of it translates into the house of figs, which has a really cool spiritual implication that I've covered before, and I won't cover today, but you can do that quick search and look at those old ones. We'll get that on there, or just ask me. But also translates to the house of affliction and the house of misery. And the reason why they would name this place such a horrible name is because that's exactly what it was. Bethany was an alms village. And matter of fact, with Chris's help, I'm going to get a couple of slides this week, but one's a map type looking thing here. And I don't know, depending on where you sit, if you sit to the sides and the back, you're kind of asking not to be able to see everything. But this is kind of where Bethany landed, on the Temple Mount, which is Jerusalem, the main city, which a lot of Jesus' life kind of centered out of, the religious hub of the day. You have beside that to the east this Mount of Olives, which we'll talk about today, and you've heard about it, and it's about a mile away from Jerusalem. And if you continue, there's a couple little cities here, and the bottom one here is Bethany. And what these alms villages are, and Chris thanks, what these are places where they would send the people who are sick or in poverty, people that were in need. It probably most closely relates to what we would think of today as nursing homes. If they had need, we'd send them out of Jerusalem, and they would go to one of these three cities to be cared for. And there was basically just two types of people that lived in these cities, either people who needed help or caregivers that wanted to help. And that is good to a certain extent because we're getting people help, but unfortunately also somewhat like in some situations with our modern day nursing homes, it was also kind of an out of sight, out of mind attitude about it. We don't want them in the city, so we will send them there and you guys take care of the problem. That's what kind of these alms villages or these other areas were kind of bringing into the mix, and Bethany was one of those places. Now, with that, the thing that's kind of interesting is that it was a place that Jesus loved. is a place that Jesus loved because it was so different. To tell you, this is how different it is. That's what I'm looking for to get the scripture reference. Matthew 26 tells us of a time, Matthew 26, where Jesus is in Bethany, and he goes and visits a guy who is referred to as Simon the leper, and he goes to his home. And if you know a little bit about leprosy, if you know a little bit about the Bible and leprosy, you know that that's not a disease you want. It's a horrible disease. It changes you physically, and it definitely changes you socially. Whenever we come across lepers, they're usually living outside the city gates because they're not allowed in the cities because of how contagious it is and how overwhelming it could be. They are usually living in groups, 5, 10, 15, to help protect each other because of the abuse that will come towards the lepers. It would really just destroy you relationally. However, in this case, Jesus goes into the home of Simon the leper. The thing that's cool about that, first off, is that because he has leprosy, he's not allowed in the synagogue. He's not allowed in the city. He's definitely not allowed in the house of God. You're unclean. You're not allowed in the house of God. Jesus goes into the house of Simon the leper. If you can't come to God's house, he'll come to you. I mean, it just says a lot about God's love, God's grace, just how crazy he is about you. Jesus comes into the house. But at the same standpoint, from our perspective, the other thing is kind of wild about this story, and how in the world did a leper get a house? Right? From everything that we know, you're now an outcast. You don't get a house. You're not even allowed in the city. The only place that a leper can have a house is in Bethany. It's normal there. Those walls of division have been defeated there. People don't act that way where your hands are offish and you're over there. There's a system there that he is welcomed, that he is loved, and that he's able to have a home. And Jesus is all in on it. And I really believe it's because Jesus loved this type of heart, this type of community, and this type of action that he sees in moving on. If you go in Luke chapter 10, Luke 10, 38 through 42, is the place that I believe is the first place that we see Jesus walking into Bethany. And even that's kind of a cool experience. The line basically just tells us this, that Jesus went into Bethany and Martha welcomed him into her home. And that's all it gives us. And for me, and I've shared with you guys before, I like to visualize things. I like to kind of get that into my head. The only way that really makes sense, outside of maybe she had heard that Jesus was the Son of God and she was excited he's coming to town like there's some kind of big tour, but more than likely, Jesus is just coming to town like he's done to several other towns where he's just coming in. And she probably doesn't know who he is. But she says, you can come to my house, I'll take care of you. You can come to my house, you and your friends, I'll take care of you guys. You can't get some food, you can come be with us. Because that's what happens in Bethany. If you're coming in and I don't recognize you as a caregiver, you're probably coming for help. You're looking at Jesus, you're looking at the guys, you don't know who they are, they're not part of your Bethany Care Group Facebook page, right? So you don't know who they are. So the natural assumption is you need help, you can come to my house. I'll take care of you. And Jesus and his disciples went to be with her. The start of an incredible relationship within this community. Here we have Martha, we have Mary, and we have their brother Lazarus, who becomes Jesus' best friends and come back into the story several times over. I've referred to in the past Bethany as Jesus' Smoky Mountains. And what that means is, before my son moved to Kissimmee, Florida, and so pretty much whenever I get time, it's going to go see my son and my daughter-in-law, my grandbabies. A lot of times we go to the Smoky Mountains if we needed to kind of detox, to just kind of relax, get away from everything, and slow down, and just kind of have some sabbatical time. That was a place we just loved and we connected and we'd go to. Several times over in the scripture, Jesus goes to Bethany, and that's where he refuels. That's where he recharges over and over again, because Jesus loves when we take care of each other, when we don't have those walls, when we have that kind of connection with one another, that kind of community. He oftentimes goes back to the refuel. Now, let me talk to you a little bit about what I mean by refuel, because if you're new, you might not have heard me use that word before. But I'm an avid believer that we need to refuel, and we need to be purposeful to refuel. We need to make conscious decisions to refuel, that you, like me, are like cars. And we tend to just run. We don't have time for anything that's going to restore us. So we just run. The next thing you know, you're on empty and you're running on fumes and you can't understand why things aren't going as well as you wish they were, or they don't feel like they used to feel, usually because we run ourselves into the ground. And then we have to refuel. And so I believe Jesus, this is one of the places that he would go to refuel. A lot of times when I talk to folks that are hurting and struggling, a lot of times maybe they're people that I've known for a long period of time and they weren't always in that place. I've had people talk to me about it, and before I can even ask the questions, they go, I know what you're going to say, Tom. Probably. When was the last time I was in the Bible? When was the last time I was in prayer? When was the last time I was in church? When was the last time I was with a Christian community? When was the last time that because we need to refuel. We need that. We need it. And we see that in Jesus' life within Bethany. Let me talk just a little bit about how cool that kind of life is. And this is one of the reasons why I like it and dig into each other, is because this is what, it wasn't Jesus' only community. It was a community we refueled because they really, man, I hate to use this phrase because we so overuse it anymore, but they really did life together. They really dug in together. They served with one another. Jesus didn't go to his Smoky Mountains so that he could sit on a front porch and no one bug him. You know, it turns out the phone was he was refueled as he still served people and cared for people that were sick and that were struggling. We don't see him just going in going, hey, I like you guys so much, you're healed, you're healed, you're healed. But he was there and he was connected and they were caring for people. And that refuels us. I don't know if you've ever worked at a food pantry, if you ever worked at a clothing closet, if you've ever been part of a church outreach where we're helping people in need or whatever the case may be. But when you are thinking about going, the chances are you're probably like, I could do so much other things with today. And then you get there and you're like, this is so awesome. You're seeing the connection. You're working with others. You're seeing how God moves in that when you're saying yes. You see needs being filled, and it just charges you up. And Jesus had this opportunity here within this community. He had fellowship within this community. Some of my favorite scripture verses about Jesus is when he was reclining at the table. Reclining table, that means I'm comfortable here. This is my family here. I'm relaxing here. We see it once at the Last Supper, when Jesus reclined at the table and he says to his brothers and sisters there, I've been looking forward to this moment with you, because he knew it was about to come. That's crazy peace. And oftentimes in Bethany, oftentimes at Mary's and Martha's and Lazarus' house, this is where he had his community, this is where he had friendships, this is where they took and invested in one another. They were growing together in discipleship. And you could see that. He could see people excited about God and leaning into God. That's the second part of that section where he first came to town, and they thought they were going to take care of him. That's when Martha was making him dinner, and Mary was sitting at his feet going, tell me more, tell me more, tell me more, tell me more. I need more of this. You remember when Martha got all frustrated? She's like, dude, I'm doing all the work. Can you tell her to get off her butt? She's like frustrated. What did Jesus say? Martha, you're doing good things. You worry about a lot of stuff. And he didn't say, you're completely in the wrong. He says, you got a lot going on, girl. I get it. Thanks for taking care of us. But what she's choosing is better, and I'm not taking that away from her. And so they grew together. They discipled together in the middle of all the work and all the fellowship. They were leading others to Christ together. I truly believe that as he was in this town. He wasn't going there so that he could let down his guard and go over to the casino and just kind of work off some stress. They're leading people to Jesus. More people are coming to Jesus. They're seeing the community grow. They're excited about the life change that they have, and they worship together. They put God first. Oftentimes when you see Jesus saying, I need to step off and pray, where is it? The Mount of Olives. Where's the Mount of Olives? Right beside Bethany. Oftentimes they're together. This was his community. This his Christian community that refueled him, so much so that when you look at his last week in this world, with Palm Sunday up to the crucifixion, you see him journey to Jerusalem. From where? Bethany. When he got to the temple and nobody was there, he said, well, where did he go? Bethany. Bethany was his place, because that's where he found community. Now, the crazy part is, with the help of Chris, we'll put up our discipleship model for the church. There you go. This is what we call a discipleship model. It's the 5 areas from 2 different perspectives that we look at when we plan things, when we're praying about things, when we're looking at things. Are they falling into us growing to be more like Jesus in these areas? In these areas, we pull them from Acts 2, is worshiping, serving, doing our own our personal ministries by being connected together, having community living or fellowship, growing to be like Jesus or discipleship, evangelizing, inviting others to be part of it as well. Everything that we see that Jesus loves in Bethany is what the discipleship model calls us to. It's just not as cool when it's put into a chart, right? It's just kind of like, eh. But when you stop and you imagine, you think about what it should be, what the Bible calls us to, it's not always perfect because we're a community. And whenever you have community, there's going to be messiness. I don't care if it's church or Harley-Davidson Club, there's always going to be challenges. But if we're driving towards what God has called us to, what he's created us to, there's something there that refuels and charges and does the Great Commission in such a way that we are doing more together than we possibly could do by ourselves. Does that make sense? I really love Bethany. And I need Bethany because we live in a day and age where it's real easy to trash the church and saying, okay, the bride of Christ is struggling and it needs me to be part of the solution. It's real easy. I'll tell you, I think the biggest threat right now to the church of Jesus, big time, is not so much from outside as it is inside. It's one thing to call out struggles within the church that we need to address, and that's exactly what God leads us to. That's where that 100% truth and 100% love comes into fashion. It's another to just sit on the outside and just trash it. Not just on Facebook, but in our own hearts. It doesn't feel the way that it used to. I've been hurt. I've been disconnected. I've been at home for 6-7 months. I get it. But we're created for Bethany. We're created for more. We're created to not just be his child, but to be in his family. And I think that's what Bethany calls us to. So what happens when that gets challenged? That's where I want to get in some scripture with you. So if you would, let's go and get our Bibles out. We're going to go to John chapter 11 as we explore one more narrative, one more situation that happened in the area of Bethany, where even for Jesus and for Mary and for Martha, community is challenged. When it's challenged, what do we do and how do we respond and how do we move forward and where does that hope come from? Now, again, if you don't have a Bible, there are all Bibles in the baskets around the room that you can use if you want to. Or if you need a Bible, feel free to take one of those or a gift from us to you. They are paperback and they're small print, so either one of those things freak you out, no problem. Take it for now. Let me know you don't have a Bible. We'll get you a better Bible, I guarantee you. We'll slap something together for you real quick. Also, YouVersion is up and running for those who use the YouVersion app on your phones or your tablets. We can do a search for the live event, and you'll see TSF and today's date, and it has all the scriptures and everything right there. But here's what we come across with John 11. With everything that's going on really well with Bethany and Jesus, with this particular group of friends, we find that things go really in a unimpressive way, in a sad way, in a terrible way with the death of Lazarus. So let's read a little, talk a little, and we'll guide through this and see what we find. In verse 1, it says, a certain man was ill, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary and his sister Martha. It was Mary who anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was ill. So the sisters sent to him, saying, Lord, he whom you love is ill. So in this particular section, one of the things I love about this, because sometimes people can say, oh man, Tom, you love Bethany, you're talking about the fellowship, and I think you're reading some things into it, or whatever the case may be. I don't think that's the case. If people send a message, you're going through a struggle, who can we go to? It's going to be Jesus. We've seen him do this, a billion times before. Go to Jesus. And when they come, they do not say, Jesus, look, Mary and Martha sent us, Lazarus is sick, we just want to give you the details, say what's going on. They come from Bethany, look at him and say, the one that you love is sick. And he goes, Lazarus. I mean, it's just that kind of connection. It's just, your brother's sick. What's going on with Lazarus? I mean, he just immediately has that connection, the one that you love. And so from this point, the scripture for the next few verses does make it very clear that Jesus loves Lazarus. But what he does is very different than what they expected him to do. He ends up staying where he's at for 2 more days instead of going to him. And I think that would have to be very uncomfortable community-wise to see that this kind of relationship, that Jesus does nothing. Nothing. I mean, I'm sure the expectation was he's going to drop everything and come running to heal his friend, heal the person he had. I mean, this is my brother. I'm going to go heal him. And Jesus does not go. At the very least, could he not say, okay, gotcha, go home, he's fine? He's done that before. He did that for a kid he had no physical relationship with their family. My daughter said, no problem, just go home. She's fine now. Just go home. And found out halfway home that she was fine. He could at least have done that. The problem is when we're talking about 100% love and 100% truth, God has a different way than us many times. And he said, I got to do this my Father's way. And I'm telling you, I think it broke Jesus' heart. Broke his heart. My dad's setting something up here. I've got to do it his timing, his way. There's a bigger message that goes along with this. I know my brother. I know my brother loves God, and my brother's in submission with God. I've got to follow that route. And so he didn't move. He didn't move for 2 days. Now, one of the things we're going to find within this is that they made some assumptions on why he didn't go. They made some assumptions because his life was in danger, and they thought maybe there was a safety issue. And the only reason I mention that is because it's going to come up a second time here in a few moments, where there's a void. And I've shared with you before, and I always want to make sure we've been concerned. Wherever there's a void, there's negativity. We fill voids with negativity. And I haven't seen my friend for a long time. I love him to death, but I haven't heard from him, so he's probably mad at me. And then I find out he was in the hospital, and I didn't know. You know what I mean? We just kind of fill things in with void. And that's what they did here. They couldn't understand, so he's probably afraid. He's probably scared. And the reason I bring that up is because some of the reasons why you and I have pulled away from community at times in our lives is because we filled negativity into spaces that we didn't fully understand and we didn't have the full picture of. So it's good to kind of keep that in our minds. But there comes a time here when it is God's timing, and Jesus says Lazarus has fallen asleep. We need to go wake him up. They're like, well, if he's sleeping, he's probably getting better. Leave him alone. Jesus is like, okay, I love you guys so much. You're a little dense. He's dead. So we need to go. And so they say, okay, let's go, and we'll die with him. Verse 17. Now when Jesus came, he found that Lazarus had been dead in the tomb for 4 days. Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 2 miles off, and many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to console them concerning their brother. Now, remember, every detail we have in the scripture is there for a reason. It wasn't just blasé that John put in that he's been dead for 4 days. He wants to make sure that you and I understand something. He's really dead. This isn't a coma or whatever the case may be. He's going to do this once again in a few minutes to make sure we understand Lazarus is dead. People are grieving. Everything has fallen apart. And as Jesus comes up, Martha finds out. Martha runs out to see him. And what is her response to the Lord that she knows is in control of all things and loves them dearly? If you were here, my brother wouldn't have died. And she weeps. Where were you? I can't get my mind around the fact that you have not come. And Jesus says, but don't you believe that I'm the resurrection? Don't you believe? And she said, well, of course I know he's going to be resurrected someday. Someday I'll see him again. What I'm talking about is right now I'm hurting in pain because my brother is dead. And he goes, do you believe? And kind of just help her refocus. She says, I believe. I know. Mary finds out as well, and she says she got up at once. She just got up and ran to Jesus. And being the full woman of faith who was sitting at his feet, listening all this time, comes to him and says, if you were here, my brother would not have died. And just weeps. Just weeps. In verse 33, it says what Jesus' response to her was. When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in his spirit and greatly troubled. And he said, where have you laid him? And they said to him, Lord, come and see. And Jesus wept. So the Jews said, see how he loved him. But some of them said, could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man also have kept this man from dying? For them they were filling the void with negativity. I love this particular section of Scripture. even though it's debated by some. Why was Jesus crying? He knew Lazarus was going to come back from the dead. Did I just spoil that for anybody yet? I'm sorry. It's a really good ending to the story. I'll just tell you that. He knew Lazarus was going to have dinner with him that night. And yet, he weeps. Yet, he grieves. Yet, he's moved deeply in his soul. And I have seen some say it was because he looked around and here's this lack of faith. Here's this lack of faith. And he's just, I can't believe you guys aren't getting it by now. I highly disagree with that. I mean, again, this is Tom's interpretation, and I've said it a billion times over. Whatever's right here, you're stuck with. Whatever I say, weigh it. If it's for you, great, grab it. If not, throw it away. That's fine. But for me, I highly disagree with that because I do believe that Jesus meets us in our hurt and our pain. And even if he knows exactly what the next moment is, even though if he knows what the answer the daddy has for us, even though he knows the celebration that's around the corner, he meets us where we're at. He comes into the leper's home and meets us where we're at. I truly believe that. This community, everything that he loved and refueled him was hurting. Everything here was being interrupted. Many of you know my mom passed away a year ago today. And for those who don't know me well, we're sorry to hear that. For those who know us well, it's life-changing. It's a huge void. It's an interruption of everything that we know. And we have spent the last year redefining what life looks like without mom. My dad has, my siblings have, my kids have, my wife has. All of us are redefining through the hope of Jesus Christ. This is what Jesus is going through in this moment. For others of us, we know times in our seasons when we look back that we had Christian community. And I do believe that that is through the local body church first. I say everything that we see taught and exhibited in the scriptures, the local body church. I can have a couple of best friends that has nothing to do with elders or prophets or teachers in my life. It has nothing to do with things that come with the local body church. It is good that I've got close friends, just like Jesus had close friends that he walked into that town with. But there's something more, and maybe some of us had it before, but then something interrupted it that was devastating. A pastor who is off base. A moral failure or something that maybe happened towards you. Christians that you loved, and you felt that you had this Bethany community, and next thing you know, they've been talking about you behind your back or trashing you or just walk away from you when you needed them the most. There are things that happen that interrupt our community that are devastating. A pandemic that we had no control over. Devastating to our community. This is why I'm bringing this forward within the story of Bethany. Where does our help come from? Where does that solution come from? How do we move forward in these situations? Verse 38. Then Jesus, deeply moved again, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone lay against it. And Jesus said, "Take away the stone." Martha, the sister of the dead man, said to him, "Lord, by this time there will be an odor, for he has been dead for 4 days." And Jesus said to her, "Did I not tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone, and Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I know that you always hear me, but I said this on account of the people standing around, that they may believe that you sent me." When he said these things, he cried out with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." The man who had died came out. His hands and his feet bound with linen strips, and his face wrapped with a cloth. And Jesus said to them, "Unbind him and let him go." This is a big one to imagine. Jesus came troubled and said, "Take the stone away." Once again, the author wants to make sure we know he's dead. There's going to be a stench. This is a weird detail for a Bible story. You don't get it. We're all about Lazarus coming back, but he needs a shower first. This is not going to be good. Jesus, I don't know what you're thinking. But she didn't understand. And Jesus said, "Remove the stone," and brought him back to life. He had a loss. Community was lost. Everything was devastated. And then it was restored. Listen, this part of the narrative, let me make sure we don't miss this. This is, in one way of looking at it, a very personal good message for all of us. We have all sinned. We have all blown it. We have all fallen short of the glory of God. The Bible is very clear about it. Jesus Christ died on the cross and rose again so that he can have victory over this, so he can offer a gift to you, so that if you accept Jesus as leader and forgiver in your life, by acknowledging with your mouth he is the Son of God, believe in your heart he died and rose again, then you will be saved. In other words, you're the dead person before you come to Jesus in the tomb. And he's calling out your name. There might need to be some stones moved away so you can hear it, but when you hear it, he's saying, come out, come forth. And when you say, you're God and I'm not, and my life is yours and I'm following you and I want this in my life, it's like walking out of the grave into the open air. So he doesn't care how smelly you are or how long you've been dead. It's just come out. And the thing that's awesome about this story is when he came out alive, you would think that would be enough. And Jesus says, you guys are killing me. Take off the grave clothes. He deserves freedom, not this bondage that you have on him. So get that stuff off of him. This guy needs to run. This guy needs to dance. This guy needs to get ready for dinner. Let's go. And in the same way, whatever ripple effects come from your previous decisions in your life, God will see you through it and will lead you to freedom, because Jesus Christ is about freedom. Only Satan is about guilt. Only Satan is about condemnation. And only Satan is about living in bondage. For us, conviction is just an invitation to grace. Run to it. Run to it. That's what that's all about. And the thing that's cool about it is it's just that easy. I'm going to talk for a couple of minutes. Do me a favor, don't wait till some kind of moment where we take the lights down to pray. You can right now just say, I'm going to ignore Tom and say, Jesus, can we talk? I want to give this life to you. You can have that freedom right now. Life-changing freedom right now. And then after church, do me a favor, let me know, because I want to celebrate with that. We want to just be there for you any way that we can, any way, shape, or form, and just party over that. That is such awesome news. The whole reason why on my mom's anniversary I can remember instead of relive it is because she has no clue. She is just partying hard. You can have that too. You can have that hope, you can have that grace, and you can have that foundation. Just accept Jesus, leave, forgive in your life, and start from there. That's where that new life comes from. But I do believe there's a message here for us as well when it comes to Christian community. When it's interrupted by these things and these challenges that come into place. And I'll tell you why I see us. If there's an area in your life, from any of these reasons we talked about, where you don't feel Christian community the way that we've described Christian community at this point, then maybe your Christian community is in the grave. And when I see Jesus saying, take away the stone, and then the power of the Holy Spirit comes and raises him, I get excited for a few reasons. I love that Jesus says, Father, I thank you heard me. I know that you hear me. I just said this because people around me are listening, and I want them to know that what's about to happen is all you. All you. I love that. He's like, I know this is already taken care of, but for you guys' sake. And then he says, if your Christian community is in the grave and bringing it out, that you have a part in that. And where I see you in this story is Jesus saying, remove the stone. I will breathe new life into it. The Holy Spirit will come into it for a Christian community within your life. Just remove the stone. Do you realize that Jesus could have said, and the stone would have went flying like it was a pebble out of a slingshot, right? He could have just kind of like coughed a little and it disintegrates, and then all of a sudden there's this. He could have, well, I guess he couldn't have Lazarus come walking through because he was in physical form, and that'd be really painful for Lazarus. But he could do his own thing if he wanted to. He can do whatever he wants within those physical guidelines that he put into place and that he can change. But there's something within that says you get to be a part of it. You make a conscious choice. You look at the options. You follow me. You remove the stone, and then I do my part. There's no way life comes into Lazarus without the Holy Spirit. I don't discount that at all. Christian community life together is hard sometimes. We can't do it without the Holy Spirit. I don't discount that at all. But you and I get to make choices on whether or not we step in. You and I get to make choices on whether or not there's boundaries within the place. And I think that's a season we're in. I think that's the season that we're in. A lot of us have been home. A lot of us are getting comfortable with online, or you're sick and tired of online, one of the two. And online's good for information, but it's not community. And some people shouldn't be out yet. If you come here all the time, you know I've been saying for weeks, there's a good 20% of all folks, if I'm just looking at it from a fellowship standpoint, shouldn't be here. I'm glad the online's there for you. You're high risk. There's things going on in the world. We're not trying to discount that in any way, shape, or form. But for a lot of us, there's ways that we can start building community again. And I think we need to build community again. We've had our last season praying this prayer that we're going to talk about in a few moments. And I think God's been leading us for this long before you and I even knew what COVID was, let alone church hurt, Christian hurt. There are challenges that we have on our plate. And I really believe the season that we're moving into, that's another thing. I teach in series. I love seasons too. I think we go through seasons as the Spirit leads. And I really believe He's leading us into a new season. In my head, I'm referring to it as rebuilding community. Because we've always said we're a relational church. We've always said we're a relational church. It's one of our guiding principles is to have brothers and sisters together. And I don't know about you, but I just don't feel it like I did before. I just don't, if I'm being honest. And it's not just COVID, but that's a big chunk of it. It's just not the same. But I think we have a beautiful, beautiful opportunity to rebuild community in our lives as individuals and as a church. Does that make sense? Does anybody else agree with me? I just think that's the season we're going into. So with that, let me spend a little time on what that is going to look at, like church-wise, and then like what we as elders or different people on staff, or what things that we're going to put in place, our kind of tools to kind of help people with that. And then let me talk about it from a personal standpoint on what does that mean for you overall. And I've been teasing for a while that today was going to have some announcements and going to have surprises in it and all that kind of stuff. And yay! And yeah, that's what we'll get into now. So let me talk to you a little bit about some of the things that we want to start offering to help people as tools to help them rebuild community within life and community within our church. Because here's what I know, and it's going to sound a lot programmy. Programs don't build community. Us hanging out together builds community. So these are just opportunities to hang out. And I want to share with you what those are. I'm not going to give you a ton of details about them, because to be fully honest, I'd probably be talking more about the details of all this than I would if I was talking to you about Antioch Next. It's a lot. So what my plan is right now, and I don't have it completely figured out yet, but I think within the next couple of weeks we're going to have a family meeting that may be in-house. If it is, it's also going to be online. It may just be video that I send out a link to everybody who wants to know the details and dig into. If you're not on a prayer chain, make sure you're on a prayer chain, because a lot of our communication comes out through that email list. You can be part of that just by handing me your email address. Just please write it very legibly and let me know, or send a email to prayer@theshepherdsfellowship.org. Say I want to be on the list. Our Facebook page is good stuff. But I just kind of want to share with you some of the things that we're doing as we go forward step by step. Now, I know we all have different opinions about exactly how COVID should be impacting things and not impacting things. Wait till the end. I'll address that the best I can. So until then, just hold on to that little nugget, and I'm kind of excited about some of the things we're looking at. So let's start out with what's coming back. And when I say back, in this particular one, it's the first Wednesday, no, October 7th, I think. Is that a Wednesday? Anybody? You guys know if I'm looking at the calendar, I'll still say the wrong date. Okay, October 7th. But for a lot of these are coming anytime within the next month to 6 months. I'm not saying dates. This is just kind of what we're starting to put our focus. But community nights are coming back. Community nights are on Wednesday nights here. They have a little something for everybody. We have an adult Bible study here in this room that my lovely bride takes and leads. Please, I got in trouble yesterday. I'm trying to suck back up. Upstairs on the other side of the building, we have a room called the Upper Room. The youth group is coming back. Now, the adult group has been meeting on Zoom, and we're going to bring that here. And I think they're looking at an option for those who can't come back yet to be able to participate. Youth group has been on break for summer, so they'll be coming back. We have our midweek kids. We have our kids' church going on right now. We have a midweek program for kids that Sandy leads for us. That will be back over in the Blue Room, and then we also have nursery services for the little ones that Miss Audrey does. So that is all coming back on the 7th. Because here's the thing. We used to have home groups, And about 3 years ago, we kind of let them retire for a while. And in all honesty, they should retire. I don't know if anything should be 100% all the time. It just kind of ran its course. Everything kind of naturally kind of came through and said, okay, let's just stop instead of going to each other's homes. Let's be here and see how it goes, which is great. But it's also been 3 years, and I think we're losing some community because of it. And so one option for everybody is not necessarily it. So we want to look at some options. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit as well. So community nights are coming back, absolutely. We've got all those. Sunday school is coming back. I've been talking to Miss Chris back there, and she has been working on some curriculum. For some who live a little bit further away, but they want to be part of a group, having Sunday school before church has been something I know several have mentioned to me that they miss. Book club is coming back. Scott Zutch has already been working on that, and they've picked out a book, and he's been talking to the folks who want to be a part of that to find the right date and time. You'll probably see within a couple of weeks an opportunity on how you can order the book if you want us to do the legwork for you. I believe that's going to be online, except for the end. The end is going to be where everything else is pretty much in-house or in the community. And then God's Word is coming back. Mary Lynn Scott, I think, snuck out. Mary has a group that's for Bible memory verses, and they spend online, coach each other throughout the week, have Bible verses out. They get together at the end, right after church on a Sunday, and go through Bible memory verses. So I'm excited about that. So those are the things we're kind of working on right now to bring back over probably the next couple of months. We have some new starts. And this is probably going to be one of my main focuses personally for the next year, is some new starts. When it comes to home groups, we've had several of you guys go through facilitator training. Great opportunity to start a home group, and some of those home groups are going to be Bible studies. That's what we're used to. We get together Bible study, we have fellowship, maybe take communion with one another, have prayer time together. But I just want to put this out there. Not all home groups have to be Bible studies. I know some people are like, man, I'd like to host a group of my thing, but I don't feel like I'm a scholar. Hey, you're following my teachings on Sunday, so good luck. We don't need scholars. I'm just kidding. But anyways. Might as well say it myself before you guys get the dig in. But there are such things as fellowship groups, and there's such things as prayer groups, and there's a lot of different ways that we can get together because we build community being together, and different things to work for different people at different times. Sunday mornings is all about discipleship and worship together. It's all about, but there's not a lot of fellowship because I do all the talking. But being in a room together, taking and doing life together, having someone mentor you, being in the Word together, there's a lot of different possibilities within that. I'm looking for people who are willing to start new groups with me. I will host new groups. It might be at your home, might be in the church, it doesn't matter. But there are a lot of different opportunities. I really believe that's something we need to grow into over the next year. One of those that we'll announce today, but details will be coming, is Nicole Stein is starting TSF Singles. Very soon. It's going to be a monthly group. Not everything has to be weekly. It's going to be a monthly group that gets together, probably looking at starting in January, but looking at some special events between now and then. I'm so used to being over there. I'm like, where the heck is Nicole? There's Nicole. So for those who graduate high school and on up, TSF Singles is coming. We're real excited about working with that. She sent me some dates yesterday, so I hope to have some more information out for you soon. We are starting special night things again. We haven't had anything here in the evening for a long period of time. Some of you guys already know, and we can put this up. Avi Snyder is coming October 10th. Did I get the date right on this one? Yes. Avi is with Jews for Jesus. He generally lives in Israel, but he's doing a tour of the United States right now. Jews for Jesus are Jewish people, believe in the Old Testament, who have accepted Jesus as leader and forgiven their lives. They tend to be known as Messianic Jews. And he is traveling, and he's going to be here with us. I've been talking to him. He's an awesome guy. And I'll be honest with you, not all of our special guests have been awesome, but this guy seems to be. And he's going to be here. And we've had Jews for Jesus. Am I allowed to admit that? I'm sorry. Hey, someone probably didn't like me. But we've had him here before going through the Passover meal. And the meals of the Jewish nation have so much prophecy and symbolism in them. And the Passover meal is where we get communion from. And I love going through this. This is the first time we're going through the fall feast. And the fall feast have just started. I think it was last week was the first of the fall feast. And Avi's going to come and he's going to share about the feast, the prophecies, how Christ fulfills those. And I think it's going to be pretty cool. That particular one we will be doing online as well as in-house. But again, community happens in-house. So if you can't be here, we would love to have you be here and be a part of it. And the other one that we have not really announced yet and we're still kind of finalize a date on, we would love you to be a part of, is we have a TSF, not really worship night, but TSF worship concert coming up. It's a little bit of a different feel. If you came to the night that we recorded the first CD, okay, if you don't have one of those CDs just right outside this door, that's the worship band you can have for free. That's the feel that's going to be that evening, and we're looking at the end of October, and we would love to have you here to worship with us. And also, it is going to be a second CD. We're all going to have it produced. We're going to put it out, and again, you guys get them for free to give away as an outreach. That's the whole purpose of those CDs. I hope they encourage you, but I also hope that they reach others. So we do have some things coming up there too. Some new investments that we got coming up. I don't know if I can talk about too much. Hold on just a second. Huh? Sure. No, we don't like excitement at the Shepherd's Fellowship. Lazarus has just walked out of the tomb. Please keep it down. Don't tell anybody. Okay? They probably shouldn't have, because the result was they had hatched a plan to kill Jesus and Lazarus, but that's another issue. But Chris is working towards possibly another mission trip. She has been to Jamaica. She's been to Haiti. We're working towards Africa, South Africa, and seeing our friend Anna Lee, who has been here. She does ministry in South Africa, and she's shared with us before. So we're still going in that standpoint, and we're looking forward to partnering with her. If you want to go on a mission trip, make sure you touch base with us. There's different mission trips available. So excited about that. Another thing to kind of announce is back in the day, I'm going back like maybe 3 years, for about the 7-8 years before that, we had a Compassion International child named Sweetie from India. And we loved Sweetie, and the people wrote back and forth with her, and the kids wrote back and forth with her, and she had pictures and everything else. And then we were just heartbroken that India broke ties with any kind of organizations like Compassion International. So we lost Sweetie. It came down to like, look, the window closes, and you have like 24 hours to write her your last letter. And so we did, and we sent her some things and whatnot. And kind of been licking our wounds a little bit. But for this season, and hopefully you can see him well enough, I'll send out pictures too, but I want to introduce you to Carlos. Correct? Yes, Carlos from Honduras is our new Compassion International child. If I remember my details correctly, he has 2 siblings, and his mom there, she is a single mom. She was married at the time that the kids were born, and she primarily takes care of the kids, so life in Honduras is not necessarily fruitful with resources. And with Carlos had been waiting for a sponsor for almost 2 years. And we were thrilled to be able to adopt him. So you're going to be finding out more about Carlos, how you can write letters with Carlos as part of our missions here, and how we will be supporting him as a church family as well. And then the last investment that I'll share with you, thank you, Chris, is this. And this is the one that, my goodness, this is a lot of faith behind this one. I have been seeking this out for about 2 years. In the last month and a half, it's become more prevalent, and in talking with the elders and praying with the elders and discussing it, we have made a decision to move forward in an area that is additional to what we've had in the past. I'm the only, if you look at it from the way the world looks at things, I'm the only full-time person here at the church, and we have in our guidelines that I do not get paid to do ministry. We don't pay anybody to do ministry. We pay people so they can do ministry. And I know it's a thin line, but it's a line that makes a difference, at least in my head. That the church pays me so I can take care of my family, so I don't have to go work in some business corporation or go back to retail, and then I can't do the things that I do all week long. And that's kind of the mindset we like to have. The second staff member we brought on after, but both of us had a period of time that we did for free because that was just a hope, but we decided to bring Mike on part-time. He's not getting rich in any way, shape, or form on the $100 a week that we float his way, and we didn't pay him until just a couple of years ago, and as you know, he's been here for about 8 or 9 as our worship leader, and so we don't pay him, and he never requested payment because we pay people to do ministry. We just want to support him in his ministry. And we don't want him to have to go work at McDonald's part-time, take care of his family. We want him to be able to do what God does with him. We are going to start Tuesday pursuing a second part-time position here at the church. That would be at that same level, $100 a week. Mike's on board with it. Audrey's on board with it. The elders are on board with it, as we are going to start looking for a youth minister. We have had many incredibly powerful volunteers in that role as youth leaders that love our kids, that are incredible mentors to our kids, that have done great for our youth. But we feel that it's time to bring somebody in that has the calling and the vision. The calling and the vision. And the only way I can describe it is before Mike was here, we had worship leaders, volunteers, great people, and we did music. I was one of them for a while. I knew my 4 chords and I played them well. Wasn't always on key. But it was different when Mike came. It was different when Mike came. He has a calling on his life. He has a vision in his life, and it took things to a new place. And we believe our teens need that. We believe the teens in our community need that, and that all people can be support to them, but that we need a youth minister. And so we have decided to take a step with that. Now, if you're following along any about the finances with the church, especially over the last month and a half, it's a faith step, and Satan is fighting against it. Satan's fighting against it. Because even when we made a decision, we knew we didn't have the finances for it. But we really believe that God's leading us this way. And so there's times when I was thinking about bringing this up, and it's like, wow, what are people going to think, and are we going the way? God's going to take care of this if we do our part. God's going to take care of that through us. So that's something that's going to be coming. I don't know if it'll be someone in-house or it'll be somebody outhouse. Outhouse? I don't know if it's going to be 2 weeks from now. I don't know if it's going to be a year from now. But we're going to start that and ask you to be praying for us as well. So with that in mind, with Chris's help, will you put that list up on the screen for me? Thanks. And I know it's small print because we couldn't fit it with big print for you guys. But I want you to stop and think about a couple of things. One, if we do these things over the next 5-6 months, we invest into them, we move the stones, and God blesses it, is that something to get excited about or not? Is that the type of community that we want to continue to build and to offer to people who are lost around us? That's one. Two, and I want to make sure I say this clearly because I tend to speak to everybody on the same page and it will hit everybody differently. And sometimes I forget that. And I had a really good conversation with a friend of mine last night at the start of a conversation. We're going to do some more this week. That maybe sometimes it's coming off like I'm saying things that I don't mean to say. I'm passionate about you building Christian community in your life, and I'm thrilled that you're part of the Shepherd's Fellowship. What I don't mean to say is you need to be at each and every one of these, and that I want you to do my vision of this church. And they didn't even say that in a snotty way. It's just a way, I understand you want us to be part of the, more involved in church. I understand that vision. I'm just kind of struggling with this. I didn't mean to say that. There's going to be 1 or 2 things in here that God calls you to. If I say anything, it's going to be this. If God puts on your heart to step into something, step into it. If you're just not sure and you're only coming on Sunday mornings, can I encourage you to look for one thing? Sunday mornings, if you have a long drive, with Sunday school. Maybe it's a once-a-month women's group, which is coming. Men's group, which is coming. The singles group, just to kind of build some community. But why this is kind of my Bethany, and I encourage and pray that it's your Bethany too if you call yourself a fellowshipper. Jesus didn't live in Bethany. He went back to Jerusalem, and he went to Judea, and he went out into other places of the world, and we're all called into different ways. I get that. Distance is going to make a difference. Your circumstances are going to make a difference. But a commitment to grow just a little bit more in your Christian community is what we're talking about when we talk about removing these stones. So I hope I don't portray it differently than what my heart intends. It's just hard to take personal messages out of this big voice that comes up here. So let's talk about these just a little bit on what your part is. What is a way that you can grow your Christian community a little bit more? And that could be an option here at the church. It could be an option to start the Bible study at your workplace. It could be being part of FCA at your school when FCA comes back. I guess some of them are back, but the teachers are leading instead of outside speakers. There's a lot of different ways we can build within that. And one of the ways I encourage you more than anything else is this. Send a PM, send an email, pick up your phone, call somebody and say, hey, do you want to have lunch? Hey, do you guys want to have a double date night? We haven't talked for 6 months. I don't know you too well. Do you want to come over to our house for a cookout? Just us so we can get to know you. Do not wait for someone to call you. A lot of us sit there and go, well, no one calls me, and so I just don't feel like I'm part of the church. You have a phone. We have a class on Sunday mornings at 8:45 that can show you how to use your phone. Reach out. It can be scary for some of us. I get it. My beloved mother, when she started the health to be going to church, went to a church, it was a larger church. And she always talked about whenever they had that time, would stand up and say hi to each other and greet each other. And I stood there, and it just doesn't seem like too many people say hi to me. My beloved mother, have you ever turned around and put out your hand to somebody else? Well, no. I love you. Sometimes it's clicks. Sometimes it's just because you aren't stepping in. We're the stone movers. So here's the two big obstacles. The one obstacle is COVID. It's out of our control. All these sound really great, and we could have a big run of COVID next week, and all of it goes back onto the back burner until it's time, then it's safe to be able to move forward. But for the most part, we're re-engaging in community, and we should be re-engaging in Christian community if we are. We generally have groups of 10 or less. We are not a monster church. We do have social distancing. We have the same requirements. This Saturday, youth group is having a movie night. It's our kickoff night. Kids, guess what? Bring your mask till you sit down. The same requirements are there for the groups that we have. We're going to take care of each other on Wednesday nights as well. And the other challenge to it is your decisions. Your decisions. Will you financially support? In all honesty, if we're all tithing and doing offerings the way that God calls us to, that's not even a question, it's fine. But we're not there. Will you financially support? And will you show up as God calls you to show up? Will you make a step forward in areas that might not have anything to do with any of the opportunities we give as a church, but might be in your own home place? Chris, if you would, let's look at the prayer. For a year and a half, we've been praying this prayer. And I absolutely believe, and I have shared with you before, all the areas that I have seen God building us up. And I absolutely believe that He is preparing a path before us. And I absolutely believe, as we spoke about the dreams and the dreams that had confirmation over us, that for us to get there, it was a matter of just removing the code, which that code was prayer, which became this particular prayer that we're praying, to remove it, to move us from where we were to where God is leading us. Where God is leading us. And then it's just a matter of removing the obstacles from in front of your children. And we have some opportunities within that to be stone movers. So if you have been out of church for a while and you've tuned in because you saw that Shock Your Mama thing or whatever, or the pastor rap video, or different things we put in, you have opportunities to step back into community. And if we can help you with that, we'd love to do that. If you've been hurt by a pastor before, I can understand. And I have had people not feel comfortable with me being the first step of conversation because of pastors in the past. I get that. We have other people talk to you. We've got great ladies, great guys in the church. We'd love to reach out to you, maybe email back and forth with you for a while. But I do invite you to step back in the ways that you have, to remove these obstacles from in front of His children and have what He's designed us for, to reach out to the community around us who need it so badly.